Welcome to the Go Unpro podcast, a doctor's 52-week journey to an unprocessed life. Now, here is your host Dr. Brent W. Laartz, Associate Professor of Infectious Diseases and Internal Medicine, neuroscientist, and best-selling author.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another Go Unpro podcast, a doctor's 52-week journey to an unprocessed life. I'm really excited about this year. 2026 is starting. Whatever time frame you're looking at this and watching this or listening to it, it's an exciting time. It's a new year, new me. Health is priority, even more so than the past. Every year, it seems like I have become more and more healthy. Sometimes we have slips, sometimes we have some hiccups to our journey, right? We have some slips, and it's going to happen. Over the holidays, it was an amazing Christmas holiday, and all of these holidays, while I've had up times, I had a hiccup as far as my life went. I had my father died in just before the holidays, and we decided to have his celebration of life December 6th. That meant visiting a lot of family, which was great. There were a lot of family that I hadn't seen in a while, but it also meant getting together for celebration. That means a little bit of alcohol, that means a lot of food. And, my goals for alcohol use are a very limited amount because, again, with alcohol, no amount of alcohol is good for you, but there is some good that happens from alcohol, and it is an amazing thing to actually bring people together. Having a beer with family. My family lives in Colorado. They drink Coors Light. So having a Coors Light with my brother, with my mom, and everybody, it certainly got things together, but it brought me up from my usual need for alcohol to I try to have only one or two drinks on 1 or 2 days a week, and that gets me to no more than 15 drinks per month, and that's my goal. I certainly went over that in the month of December. Dry January is here. I'm not always dry in January, but I do limit my alcohol in January. It is a good time frame. It is my birthday month. Happy birthday to me coming up in about a little under 2 weeks. I'm going to be in Chile and actually just coming back from Chile on my birthday. While it is an exciting time to have a birthday, it's always cold during the month of January, even in the state of Florida. It's cold to me. Okay, so stop your laughing. It is an amazing time now, these holidays. But what is January? What brings January? It brings New Year's resolutions. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit in this podcast. The amazing thing about the holidays is it is a great time for reassessment of your priorities. December, it's the end of the year. Think about what you've done during the year. You can take your tracking systems that you've set up, and I've set up these tracking programs where I can look all the way back to last January. I can see how well I did that month, how well I did this month. You can always look at your scale and look at your weight and see how you're doing. And I do that daily. Certainly, people who take their weight daily do better with weight loss than those who don't, because then you have an instant uh, setup to where you can see how you're doing. Don't put too much stock into weight by 1 or 2 pounds because water weight can add, um, and so on a day-to-day basis, you can think about those things as I do. We're going to talk a little bit about mitochondria today. I have a mitochondria-centric view of how I eat and breathe to get energy into my body. The mitochondria are the center of the universe for your body. Okay. And this was, I heard a podcast recently by Martin Picard talking about, and he's an expert in mitochondria, talking about basically if you hold your breath It's your mitochondria speaking to you loud and clear when you hold your breath to basically take another breath, okay? Because your body starts to realize that you need some of that oxygen again, and you need to get rid of the carbon dioxide to feed those mitochondria. They're the ones that are starving for oxygen, and if they can't make electrons for your body to continue to survive, then you feel it. They're telling you. They are telling you with everything that you're saying. They're telling you with the rise in heart rate that it comes from the lactic acid building up in your body. And if you're running and you hit your anaerobic zone, it is your mitochondria that are directing the body to head into the anaerobic territory to create energy in a different fashion in your body. And certainly, these mitochondria help to release cytokines when we're sick too. And those same cytokines that are released when you're sick, think about when you feel sick, if you have the flu or if you have an illness and your body is telling you, one, you need to lie down. You need to rest. Take it easy. You start to get muscle aches, trying to keep you from using your muscles, and it also creates a brain fog, right? When you're sick, those things are trying to keep you from getting out and doing things because maybe it's a survival tactic to keep you from going out into the woods and getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger from back when we were Cro-Magnon, let's say, or whatever stage of human development we were in when we started needing to feel sick. And these mitochondria are preserved in evolution from many different multicellular organisms. So the same is for any other sick animal. A cat, when your cat's sick, it's going to sleep a lot, right? We are going to sleep a lot. We're going to not do as much, and that is a survival benefit. But those same cytokines that they release that are telling you to do that when you're sick, they are the same cytokines that are going to be released in your body to make you feel tired when you've eaten poorly, when you're not feeding your mitochondria. So when I've had a better diet, a more vegan diet, a more plant-based diet, a more whole food diet, less of some of this processed foods, I feel better. And you know what? I feel like I have a lot of energy. I feel like I can go run a marathon when I have had this type of an amazing diet that I've had over the past year. And I know that when I've slipped and when I've done taken a week and eaten some processed food or whatever, I feel it. I know it when that happens because my microbiome is telling me in my gut, it's telling my brain that oh, look at this nasty food you just gave me. And now I'm going to start creating some inflammation in the body. And that inflammation carries forward to the mitochondria. Those mitochondria are an amazing organism within you. Okay, so that's how basically this old style of a bacteria was engulfed by some unicellular organism to become an organelle in that organism that then became that first mitochondria. It is the energy producing organelle in our cells that creates the electrons to create any kind of potential in any of our muscles, our nerves, our brain, anywhere for any energy. And that sick state that it is telling you that you have eaten poorly and that I have eaten poorly is an amazing signal to me to reset myself. So when I start to feel sick, when I start to feel run down, not because of a virus, not because I'm sick from an illness, an outside illness, an outside effect. It's something I'm doing to myself. And I know that what I need to do is reset myself, reset that diet, reset the exercise, the connection, whatever is feeding my microbiome, and hence then feeding my energy system, the microbiome, that the energy system of my entire body. So we've had these holidays, and we're talking about New Year's resolutions. And let me tell you that for me, I don't like New Year's resolutions to a cold turkey situation. Okay, so I like to liken it to a year-long episode of a New Year's resolution. I'm not going to go cold turkey on something. I'm not going to go and say, hey, I'm going to get rid of all processed foods because I know that, life is tricky. Life is modern and we need to meet our friends and we need to go over to our friend's house or something like that. They're going to have some processed foods. You can limit it, and try to then create a system where you can negate that with the rest of your diet. Okay, so that's what I've done is create a system year round where I might have some cheat days, let's say, and they should be very few and far between, trying to get those cheat days from 2 or 3 days a week down to one. And I think that's the system, that tracking that's going to be proved to be more beneficial and more sticky in the long run, more sticky to your habits. Okay, so certainly habits, you can't break your habits 6 days out of the week and call it a habit. That's not a habit. You can't have a diet or an exercise program and do it once a week, once every other week, and say that you're doing anything good for yourself, right? So there has to be some commitment, some um, way to show yourself, and that's where our tracking comes in. This gradual system I've set up of living to an unprocessed life has been shown over multiple studies to be beneficial for me. So that's where I'm going with this. I'm not going cold turkey. I'm not going with a with an orthorexic diet, as some might call it, or somebody who's only going to eat something if it is only beneficial to them and only healthy for them. That too much of a healthy diet could be bad if it limits your life. Could be bad if it limits me from going out with friends because they're going to a restaurant that I don't approve of. And certainly, I can try to change that place where those friends visit and try to find better places, and that's what I've done. My girlfriend is likes to make food with creams and heavy oils and this kind of thing, and cheeses, and cheese is not entirely bad for you. And so that is something I've chosen to limit. But hey, got to enjoy some of this great food that she cooks. And she is an amazing cook, and she's really been a partner of mine to help me to make a better diet because she can know how to bring all of these great healthy ingredients in together, and that I've learned a lot from her to make a savory dish out of what I didn't really think could be made from. Okay, so we're prepping our system, right? Gradually. My mitochondria are making me feel tired if I'm not eating well. And that system doesn't change quickly. So you might think if you eat healthy for a week that you're going to naturally change everything. But if you start out obese, start out with already a poor diet, your mitochondria, your microbiome in your intestines, the rest of your cells, the insulin that is pumping through your veins because you have a resistant system set up, then that's not going to change very quickly. And the changes in your diet aren't going to change that quickly. And if you change it too quickly, you might actually have some side effects. So let's say your diet now or my diet now had a lot of preservatives, sugar, alcohol, fats, and poor fats, artificial flavors, artificial colors, poisoning me and my microbiome, right? Changing the diet that I'm sending to the bacteria in my intestines is not going to change them overnight. And there's going to take some give and take and some fermented foods and different antioxidants to help nurture a better microbiome. But if I get that microbiome that's used to having a lot of bad fat and steak and fatty foods and macaroni and cheese and all of this kind of thing, potentially if I give a diet that it's not used to, it might lead to some side effects at first. So really, that's why I'm going about this slowly. And I know that I, compared to a lot of Americans, already started with this 2 years ago before I started the full 52 weeks. 2 years ago, I was already starting to be healthy. And I've been an athlete in my life. I've been running periodically. I haven't always been in shape. And as I told you before, 6 months, 12 months ago, I found myself at the top weight that I've ever been. And 163 pounds. But at 163 pounds and 5'7", that is a weight that is higher than the overweight category. Okay, um, so I started to get into this overweight category, and I thought to myself, "Wow, I've considered myself healthy. Heck, I'm a doctor, right? So, what am I doing?" And started to become healthier, but realized that this is going to take more than just a system that is healthy by doctor standards, because healthy by doctor standards actually isn't really that healthy in America. Certainly, there are not very many places where people routinely live to be 100 years of age and health and healthy. As you've seen, if you've watched the documentary called Blue Zones, Dan Buettner has it, and you can get this on multiple avenues where you watch your documentaries. It's an amazing system where he looks at the different places where they live to be 100 to find out and tease out what it is about these people. And there's really only one place in America where that is, and that's Loma Linda, California. And there's some isolated small pockets, I'm sure, of families that live well. But overall, America is a sick country overall. And so I wanted to set up and do further research to find out what I can do to live to be 100 and still be able to do the things I want to do. And certainly the things I want to do when I'm 100 sound like a dating profile. They sound like, you know, I'm on Tinder for 100-year-olds and sounds like a Tinder for 25-year-olds. I like to run. I like to bicycle. I want to mountain bike. I want to ski. I want to snowboard. I want to take not long walks on the beach, like some of those maybe profiles that probably wouldn't be on Tinder, but I want to take long runs on the beach. I want to take long runs on the beach. I want to go scuba diving. I want to go sailing. I want to be active at 100 years of age and maybe even 110, maybe even 120. Obviously, that's out of the range, but there are some things we can do right now, and we're talking about manifesting this. I've got my vision. I'm changing my words, changing my actions, confirming exactly what I want. Okay. So, and you may think to yourself, and I might have thought to myself, middle age, I'm 56 years of age right now. And is it too late? But there is some data to that. And we've talked about this before that middle age for, let's say, some of these experiments that have done in animals actually is not too late to start to get these processes in place. And you might have started with a poor health. I started relatively healthy, haven't had any major things except just had some blood work done. And this was after this year and a half of eating better. Had some blood work done, and I'm actually 0.1 nanograms per milliliter less than the borderline for pre-diabetic. And I've got two diabetic parents. Okay, so, and a lot of diabetes run in my family. My sister now has pre-diabetes. This is something that um, is now really becoming a full circle wake up call to me that I am, for all intents and purposes, pre-diabetic. The whole thing is just a, a continuum of diabetes, right? So you can be a hemoglobin A1C of 4, but if you eat and become obese 10 years later, we're all pretty much diabetic, okay? It's just a matter of where we fall on where we are for our lifestyle and where we're at for our genetics, okay? So obviously I've got some poor genetics going on for kidney disease and diabetes, so I need to be very careful, okay? So I see that and realize I've been eating healthy. When I did get this hemoglobin A1C back, which was 5.6, I thought, wow, I've been eating healthy. I wasn't overweight. I was 147 pounds. I had dropped 16 pounds. And um, and I realized that who knows what I was when I was 163 pounds. But that middle-age start doesn't mean that, well, all my family's diabetic. I might as well just go ahead and go on to be diabetic just like the rest of my family. And I have tried with my parents to change their diet, and certainly some things have worked, but it doesn't all work when you've got certain limiting beliefs. Okay. So now I've got my goals. I've got the anti-gym bro goals. I've got the supplements I want to um, take that, and I want to limit that. Okay, I'm not going to be that gym bro who's going to take 50 supplements. I'm not going to be a Brian Johnson who takes 50 supplements to live to be 120, 140 years of age. We can do this for the most part with diet. There are a few things we need to supplement, and those minimal supplements I'm going to take are calcium and vitamin D. There are things like maybe B12 or B vitamins, which, if you're going to be more vegan, might be beneficial for you. And I'm going to take an omega-3 supplement as well, along with a couple of other supplements that might be in or out, depending on what I'm thinking. Creatine might be, or there might be a few other supplements to help me as my physician might advise me to take. Okay, so um, and I'm going to be training not to the mass. I'm not going to train to maxes. I'm not going to be lifting weights to lift the heaviest weight I've ever lifted. I've done that when I was 20. I've done that when I was 25. I've done that when I was 30. Okay, so and I can tell you my maxes were amazing for what my weight was at the times. It was amazing. I've been a pretty good athlete over the times, but now I'm not training to that. I'm training to strength, fitness, SVO2, cardiovascular fitness, muscular fitness. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more about not doing those maxes. We're doing reps to 12 to 24 as far as the reps go and lighter weights, because that is has I've found for me keeps me from injuring myself. Okay, so I'm not going to be lifting. One summer I lifted with my 20 or 21-year-old son, however old he was at that time. And I was not doing maxes, but I was doing more than I should have and had some injuries. So I've decided that that's the way I'm going to be go along with this is the anti-gym bro. I'll tell you on any social media, if somebody comes at me and is a gym bro and says, yeah, you need to do this or that, I don't need to do anything. And I don't need to follow your gym bro attitude about what you need to take and that I need to take, 50 grams of, uh, of protein per kilogram, these massive amounts of protein everybody's eating, which the data says in animal studies, the data says that low protein and decrease certain amino acids actually improve longevity. So, what is it? Obviously there's a conundrum there, right? So we've got you need protein to build muscle, but you need to have low protein to live longer, and you need to have muscle to be able to live longer. So what is it? But some of these studies showing that older people need higher protein, you can actually show in those studies that those people who did resistance training actually achieved the same muscle mass without the high protein. So what is it? So this is where we're parting ways sometimes with the gym bros out there. Okay, so and our goal here is longevity. Our goal is not to be some massive gym bro, right? So our goal here is solely about longevity and lifespan and health span. Okay, so that health span is obviously the most important thing, right? So longevity, you can live to be 100 years of age, as some people have said. I don't want to live to be 100 if I'm going to be in that shape, right? Well, if you live healthy, you can increase that health span and postpone that, what they call the marginal decade, that decade where you're starting to be sick before you die. You can postpone that. Okay, so what do we really need to get ourselves to realize as far as motivation goes to live that healthy life into our hundreds, into our that's basically our 11th decade then, right? So what do we have to do? We have to figure out what our limiting beliefs are. And so any type of manifesting you need to do, obviously we have that vision of what we want to do health wise, okay? And that is pretty much everybody's got that same vision health wise, if they're serious about health, is going to be that health span. Okay. So um, and it's going to take those four pillars, right? The four pillars of diet, exercise, connection, and sleep that are involved. And obviously, I've added this fifth leg to this for plastics and trying to get rid of plastics out of my life, because that goes hand in hand with the unprocessed whole food diet, is basically getting rid of the packaged foods, and that gets rid of plastic, right? So, um, what are the limiting beliefs? And I'd like you to share with me too, online, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or if you're on a social media, share with me what you think of the limiting beliefs, and something I've come across personally because I've tried to talk my mother into doing resistance training, and I asked online on social media what the limiting beliefs are for resistance training for older people. And people were like, oh, it's just something they don't do. It's just something they don't like. Well, kind of to me, I think that my mother, it's just not something a grandma or grandpa does. Okay. So no grandmother, from 40 years ago was lifting weights, or not very many anyway. And obviously, we've got the Frank Zanes out in the world that were 65 years old and still winning bodybuilding contests. That was few and far between, but it's becoming, I think, with this next generation, we're going to notice that grandmas and grandpas actually do resistance training in our next generation. So we're going to see with my generation, some people who grew up in the 70s, grew up with becoming, at least a little bit more athletes. And obviously, there's some people who their family was never into athletics. They were into doing other things, right? And their grandma and grandpa didn't. And so they're going to have that limiting belief already of what their grandma or grandpa did or did not do. Okay, so it's something that is going to be a slow process of changing, and I do see some elements of change because I feel like that there are more and more people out there running out on, let's say, the Riverwalk of Tampa, or for any city I go to. I try to get involved in the running culture. I try to join a run club in a city I visit. So, I went to Miami and Coconut Grove and joined a run club there, and ran with them, and to see what and it's amazing how run clubs have changed over the last 10 to 20 years. I think I first started joining run clubs 20 years ago, and there was maybe at a bar where maybe 30 people would show up. And now these run clubs are 50, 100, 200 people running down these running trails, and it's an amazing thing to see. So there is an increase in it, but also there's commensurately the other half of the people are not. So, there's some statistics about how many people do strength training, and it is a majority of the population that does not do any sort of strength training. I'd say 70 to 80% of the country. Okay, so but I think that is changing. Okay, so I think that gyms, the proliferation of gyms and the proliferation of these younger people who hopefully are going to maintain that into the uh, next decades, I think is going to be something that's going to change America for the good for some people. And I think also these weight loss programs that are out there that are using medication, I think that will help the obese people to be able to get out there and exercise and do resistance training, because now with some weight loss, they're not as limited in their abilities, not just their beliefs, but their actual abilities. Certainly, some person who weighs 400, 500 pounds is going to have a hard difficulty running 2 miles and is going to have some consequences if they do try to do that, if they try to run with that much weight on their hips and their knees, right? So, the other limiting beliefs, I've never been an athlete, okay? So what? You don't have to be an athlete to get into the gym and do just a few reps of things that will help you in the long run, these exercises. And you don't have to be an athlete to get out and walk to get started on this. The I get sore afterwards, I get injured uh, prominently, and it sets me back. Well, I think a lot of this stems from trying to do too much at once, and getting sore is a signal actually that there is some benefit to getting sore, but the getting too sore such that an injury where you can't go back to the gym for 6 or 7 days, that's where those maxes, that's where those trying to do too much too soon, it has gotten me into trouble in the past. And I think that I'm no longer that 20-year-old athlete who it doesn't matter. Okay. So certainly, this brings me to a point where, when you do exercise at age 20, I'm sure some of you are 20, 25 years of age listening to this podcast, who've been trained inadequately about what to do, because there are some people, I see these people swinging kettlebells all over the place, and lifting and doing squats and deadlifts with bad form, with bad, they don't have a weight belt on, but they're trying to do a max on a deadlift. And this kind of thing is going to lead to a problem, 20 years down the line, if you can't lift weights or if you can't go for a walk because your back hurts so bad because you injured yourself when you're 25 years of age. And so I think that is something that I am so thankful of from my very past, is that I've never had an injury that's been to that point where it's actually going to limit me in the future too much. Now, granted, I've got my shoulder problems, I've got my um, few little problems with my neck, etc., that I think aren't limiting at this point, and I hope they don't limit me in the future. And certainly, I was a wrestler in high school and college, and barely in college. Let's call it that. Barely in college was I a wrestler, but I was still an athlete throughout college years. And luckily, I think that throughout all that and all my lifting that I've done for that, I have not gone to the point of injuring myself so much. I know my shoulders are a little on the limiting fact, getting this kind of process when I was a wrestler, I'm sure did not help me. And I know that having my skull drilled into the mat couple of times. Probably was not helpful for my neck, and I've had a few neck problems, but it's never limited me. And I think from here on out, I am hyper aware of not wanting to get to that point of an injury from now on. So that's why I am hyper aware and hyper vigilant about doing these exercises to the point of not getting injured. Okay, so let's get back to limiting beliefs. It's too late. I'm already sick. I'm already unhealthy, and I've already got heart problems, and I've already had a heart attack, or these kind of things. Saying it's too late, but certainly. And I'm not your doctor, but certainly those kind of things can be a limiting belief. So really, if you think it's too late, get with your doctor because I can tell you 100% it is not too late to get healthy and do some of these things to get yourself healthy again. But obviously, any kind of exercise program, any kind of diet, any kind of alterations of any sort that you have in your life, you need to talk with your doctor about it. And I hope to God that they are going to encourage you to do some things. And I want to tell you that, you know, I've heard doctors say, "Oh, your heart's squeezing just fine, your heart's fine." I've heard patients tell me, "Oh, well, my doctor tells my heart's fine." Well, I can tell you if you're diabetic and you're 60 years of age and you are, have any kind of obesity or overweightedness, your heart may not be as healthy as you think. So think about where you're at in your life and where you want to be because the person who's going to have that health span into their 100 years of age and to be able to see great grandkids grow up and do those kind of things, you're going to need to be, and I'm going to need to have that health extend and start. And so I've thought about it as a bank, right? That I'm putting some money in the bank right now for retirement. This money is the work that I do. Okay. So the work that I do is the diet, the exercise, the sleep, all of these things that I'm doing, the travel I'm doing, that I'm able to see some exciting things and connect to other places. Those kind of things are like putting money in the bank for my retirement, but it's not money for my retirement. I'm hoping that I have enough money too, but that money that I'm putting in is stock. That stock is my health. Okay, so I've got a big stock plan right now. That stock plan is these four pillars and the fifth pillar of plastic that I'm going to use to be healthy, sane and not demented, and able to do things that I want to do into my 100 years of age. Okay, so all right, let's get to more. Let's see. So I don't want to live forever is another limiting belief I've heard. I've heard a lot of people say that I don't want to live forever because I don't want to live like whoever, so and so, who was 80 and demented, or somebody who was 80 and was in a wheelchair or something like that. Well, those limiting beliefs are because of something that one person or any person grew up with. If I thought I didn't want to live to be age 85 like my dad was when he died because he was in a wheelchair, diabetic, kidney disease, dialysis, etc., um, then certainly I've seen that. And I've also had a 102-year-old grandmother. I've also had a grandmother who lived to be 80, 90 years of age and had dementia. I don't want to be like that when I'm 80 or 90 years of age, but I know that that's from living the lifestyle that they lived. Okay, so I don't have to be like so and so who was 80 and demented because I can choose and have a plan with my physician, a plan with myself, a vision that I can be healthy at age 100. Okay, so the other limiting, my family all has poor health, just like I was just talking about. That those limiting beliefs are strong in people, man. That is an amazing thing to see because I see it every day as a physician. I see people living unhealthy. I see people every day in the hospital and they're complaining about the food because they didn't get a double portion of macaroni and cheese or something like that. And I think, wow, I mean, obviously that person had limiting beliefs of that's his usual diet. That's what he's grown up with, right? So that limiting belief, certainly that, my family all has poor health, but if you continue to live down that pathway, it's going to be the self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay. So all right, so here's what we're doing this week, week number 5 of the Go On Pro challenge to myself. Okay, so I'm this week I am basically getting my diet back into control from what it was during the holidays. And so, what was that, right? So we had all the sweets and all the different things we ate at holiday parties, etc. We've started eating greens and berries because I can't emphasize this enough. What is good for me is these greens and berries, those antioxidants that are the dementia battle sword, right? So that's going to be what's going to prevent you from getting dementia in your older age is if you have plenty of antioxidants in your life. Okay, and obviously, um, my thought of this is, the berries, anything with a dark green color, a an orange, a red, a yellow color, those color and a purple color, those dark colors, colorful colors of these berries are going to be important for me. Okay, so I have started to eat more cabbage, more spinach, more kale, and I'm going to try to eat these on a daily basis. Try to do both berries and greens daily, but at least one of them every day to get those antioxidants. I'm eating more beans and nuts. I'm eating more fermented foods and trying to get a daily fermented food. I'm nowhere near that right now. Obviously, right now I've fermented some hot sauce and I've done some fermenting and I've fermented my own cashew yogurt and that kind of thing. But here's where we need to think about this and trying to expand on the fermented foods because the fermented foods provide my microbiome not only with some of the food that the bacteria in my intestines need, but repopulate good bacteria into my intestines that will then create food for my intestinal lining that decreases inflammation. Inflammation in the body created by a poor microbiome in your gut and a leaky gut. The leaky gut basically allows bacterial toxins into the body. That's called lipopolysaccharide. That lipopolysaccharide load that gets into your body creating the um, inflammation in your body can lead to a whole cytokine level system of inflammation that can have cardiovascular effects and neurologic effects and gastroenterological effects, micro effects into the endocrine system, diabetes, and the fats in your body that and in it is just an amazing thing to see how a poor microbiome can impact things. And they've done studies on this with mice and implanted the microbiome from a poor health um, mouse, let's say, and just taken the bacteria from there, put it into the um, recipient mouse, and that recipient mouse automatically has inflammatory markers through the roof because of these bad bacteria in their intestines. Okay, so I am improving the foods for my gut and microbiome. So greens and berries daily, increasing those cabbage, spinach, kale, salad, my strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, a lot of different fruits. Some fruits have a little more sugar and a little less antioxidants, so I'm trying to avoid those. But they're all good compared to anything else, any other snack you can eat. So those fermented foods that we're going to do. I'm going to ferment some. I've bought some more fermenting jars. I used to have these 1 gallon, and I still have them, obviously. I have 1 gallon fermenting jars, two of them. And when I did my hot sauce in that, I mean, I'm not going to be able to eat that much in a couple of weeks. And you really want to make these fermentations every couple of weeks because they go bad in a couple of weeks. And so you really want to kind of keep them as fresh as possible. So I'm going to try to ferment some more hot sauces, some different types of hot sauces, some different pickles, cabbage. I don't really like kimchi itself because of the taste, but I'm going to try to make some similar alterations to that to make it a little less sweet and a little less of the sour, fishy taste to it. Um, and I'm going to ferment my own teas, some peppermint teas. I'm not a big into caffeine, so I'm not going to make my own kombucha, but these are going to be some herbal teas that I'm going to ferment. Some yogurts, some different either cashew or some other alternative dairy yogurts because I don't drink milk or eat much cheese. And I'm going to try to this mint tea, maybe some ginger fermentations. These are all going to improve my microbiome. So that's this week, week 5. I'm going to start with that. And obviously, this week 5, I'm heading out of town for a week for my birthday. So I'm going to Chile. I think Chile is an amazing country. I'm going to try to some of the local foods that they have there, and they have some great hot sauces down there. I'm going to try some fermented foods. They have some great berries and Chilean wines are amazing. So I'm going to try a couple of Chilean wines. Um, and and they have great hiking and some great and then if you find a country that has like they do the hillside that they live on basically within 60 miles of the coast is basically the Andes Mountains. And so if you find a country that you would think would have some sort of blue zone, that it is it. I am sure that there are some areas up in the mountains that have people living to 100 dementia free because of that. So I'm gonna be doing some traveling this week, but I am still gonna try these fermentation. I just got 4 new fermentation jars, a couple of 16-ounce fermenting jars, and some 32-ounce ones that are going to be a little smaller that I can use every week and try to do a rotating fermentation that I can use every couple of weeks. Um, Now, okay, so the second pillar, exercise. Okay, we're continuing on this. This is I can't stress this enough about how this all 4 of these pillars have to be outstanding in order for this to work. Okay, so increasing that stamina, 6 days per week at least of doing something for yourself. Okay, so you can have a day of rest. I'm going to have a day of rest. I might cheat one day, I might not go out, but they can be short. They can be as little as 10 minutes. I can go through one rotation of every exercise I want to do in the gym in 10 minutes. That means for 3 rotations, 3 cycles, I can get that done in 30 minutes. So if you say you don't have time, if I say I don't have time, it's not true. I have plenty of time for 30 minutes to do either a 30-minute run, 30-minute walk, 30-minute bicycle, 30 minutes in the gym every day. Okay, so doesn't have to be cardiovascular 6 days out of the week, but I am going to have my cardiovascular system working when I am doing that lift because in order to go through 6 or 7 or 8 different exercises in 10 minutes, you better be moving from spot to spot. I'm not going to be sitting there in the gym on my phone, not going to be doing watching TikToks and scrolling anytime in the gym. Now, granted, I do some of that, but the less I do, the more time I have for other things. Um, and again, injury free. If injured, I'm going to take a break. Okay. So if I feel too sore, I'm going to take a break and take that day of rest I want because my body is telling me that. But getting right back into it is important for me. Okay. So, or I can do something that doesn't involve the injury. If I injure my shoulder doing something, then I can always do other things. I can always have a few leg days or something like that, or and I try to do every time I am in the gym, on that 3 days a week I'm in the gym, I'm doing every exercise, that eight exercises to go from head to toe with my gym and my strength training. Um, some ways to improve this certainly is going to be some needing for some commitment from you and from me. So how do I get commitment from myself and some different ideas? Okay, so obviously a partner. If you have a gym partner, all the best, right? So if you have a wife, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a partner, any kind of partner that is going to help you get into the gym, get outside, get to exercise, that is probably the number one thing you can have is that. But if you don't have that, and if you have a partner who's kind of couch potato, et cetera, and doesn't want to do that, and then certainly um, all the power to try to figure out how to get that to happen. Um, and but there are clubs that can help you. That you can join a gym that can be that commitment to yourself. You're paying money for it, right? Or if I pay for money for the gym, luckily I have a gym here in my condo, and that I don't need to pay for that, which is a thank goodness. But gyms are cheap, right? But those gym memberships, that's a commitment. That's even if it's $9.99 a month, that's $10 a month you pay. And if you aren't using it, you're going to feel guilty about not using it, and you don't want to not use it. So that gym membership could be that kind of commitment, or having a personal trainer could be that commitment. I think that a lot of people I know use this. I've never really needed a personal trainer for myself because I've been an athlete and I know a lot about the different exercises I need to do. And I know I've got the form from lifting since I was 10 years of age. Um, but the personal trainer could be that commitment because if you're paying them and if you can find a trainer that you pay on a weekly basis to help you and to get you there, that's all the more important. But these running clubs, any kind of club you can join that does any kind of activity, because I tell you, there are hundreds of them in any city of some sort of a club that can get you out there and get you to where you need to go. So that might be a way. Some kind of an economic commitment. Also, to keep yourself from getting sick, that is important. Okay, so that exercise we're doing is geared toward the SVO2. It's geared toward resistance training and strength training. You can do some of these measurements, okay? So obviously the measurements you're going to take are your SVO2 you can track on an Oura ring, you can track it on a watch. But those are kind of some measurements you can try to take. You can track your heart rate, and Strava can help you, or any of these other running programs where they track your heart rate, your distance, your time, those kind of things. Tracking those measurements will help to show where you're at on the from 1 year, 1 day to the next, and you can look at that. Okay, so exercise can't, that second pillar, very, very important. And I am trying to stay at it, trying to keep at it. Have those days where I don't get to the gym. I don't have time doing a podcast, doing some other, and I'm working 2 weeks straight and I'm tired today, so I can't go. Those kind of excuses, you need to limit those because just because you're tired, I find when I'm tired and I go to the gym and I lift weights, I find that, oh, the next day I'm not as tired anymore again. So, wow. It's an amazing uplift. The endorphins and the catecholamines that coursing through my veins after I've had a gym episode or a run to a max SVO2. So all right. So again, this week also, our creativity and connection. Okay. So my creativity this week, I'm going to create every day this month. I'm going to create a new poem. So the month of January, and I've already cheated a little bit because I've already had a couple of poems, and I'm going to call this, and every day this month I'm going to do it. But for the rest of my life, my really goal is to do at least one per week. And I'm going to call this, and I'm actually going to start to release these, and I'm going to release these poems, and I'm going to release them on Fridays. Okay. So every Friday, and today is actually Friday, and I'm going to release this poem. Okay. So it's going to be called Friday Frime Day. Okay. So, um, Friday is going to be Frime Day for poems for me, and I'm going to release these to you. and I'm going to release these on all of my different social medias that I do. And the first poem that I'm going to talk to you about is, and we're going to do this at the end of the podcast here, was basically a poem that I read at my father's um, celebration of life. It was about him and the leader of the band. Um, and so we're going to talk about that. I'll share that at the very end. Okay, so Friday, Frime Day. Okay, so creativity doesn't have to be poems. If you don't know how to rhyme or if you don't know how to write poems, you don't write very well, maybe even at all. There are other types of creativity from music to painting. I'm also going to potentially get another easel. My easel went bad, and when I moved into my smaller place, I got rid of the old easel that I had, and so I'm going to get a new easel. Those kind of things, that kind of creativity. It could be just drawing. It could be anything that you do. You used to, everybody, I know every girl I knew in high school used to doodle and draw on their notebooks, right? Get out a notebook and start doodling. If that's what you did in high school, get back to that. That creativity creates brain neuroplasticity that will prevent dementia the same way that connection does. Okay, so the other ways that we're going to start increasing connection, we've already talked about this, is really now is say yes to meetings. And okay, so say yes to meetings. Okay, so I'm from now on going to say yes to all meetings with anyone, and I'm going to try to actively go out and find. It doesn't necessarily have to be a happy hour with alcohol, but it can be if you want to have one drink, limit your alcohol, but and have a mocktail. Have a non-alcoholic beer. I'll tell you, the non-alcoholic beers now are tasting very good. The Heineken Zero tastes just exactly like a Heineken to me. And I remember doing a study when I was actually a subject of a study because they made us in freshman year psychology in undergrad. They made us volunteer at least one time per that semester to be a volunteer of a research program. So I went in and I drank some beer and did some uh, I guess some tests of dexterity and quickness and quickness of thought and that kind of thing. And after having two or three of these, what I didn't know was non-alcoholic beers, my actual dexterity decreased. And that was part of the study. And it's been shown that if you think you're drinking beer or alcohol, you will start to have some issues. And that's part of the placebo effect potentially of alcohol. But at the same time, that placebo effect of drinking a beer with your friends, and maybe that placebo effect is that I am looser, relaxing, and that taste of the beer might bring about the same effects of social connectedness with my peers that I want to find and the reason to that. So I'm going to say yes to a lot of meetings, try to say yes to everybody that I think is healthy for me. Obviously, I'm not going to say yes to meeting somebody who's a raging alcoholic and is going to invite me to somewhere where they're drinking shots and being bad. Say yes to meetings, to healthy meetings. Okay, so and that's what I'm going to do this week, saying yes to meetings. And my girlfriend has taught me a lot about that this past year, also about realizing that um, you that everybody's lonely out there and everybody really wants to connect also. And so it's really when you say nice things to people and you're not creepy about it, obviously, then you can easily meet people on the street and talk to them. And obviously, in some cities like New York, where everybody's tough and rough and everything, obviously you're not going to go up to a gangster and say that hey, hey, which I've done a little bit of that in the islands and come up to some people who I probably should have thought better about talking to them because I could have come in harm's way. But certainly, I'm not saying yes to all meetings, okay? But at the same time, I had my friend who used to go to the islands with me a lot, and I'll tell you some people we would run into and talk to on the streets. I wouldn't necessarily talk to every day anyway, because we could have come into harm's way. But tell you, that connection to people, if you learn to meet people, is an amazing thing. And it is an amazing connection. It's amazing how I can affect other people by just saying kind things. The thing I love when I'm going for a walk is dogs. Dogs are better than people. Granted, that kind of connection I think is really good. It could be. I don't think that they have looked at the studies that say that a social connection just has to be with people. As they said, sometimes dogs are better than people, maybe my connection is going for my runs and my walks. I'm greeting every single dog that I see on the road or on the sidewalk, and I am greeting every dog. And that maybe is some social connection because petting that dog, because obviously I maybe get a little bit too forward with some of these dogs and not asking their owner if I can pet them. But okay, I should be asking their owner's permission, asking if they're friendly, then petting the dog because that is an amazing thing. I think maybe we should do a study of that. If you go out for a walk and you pet 20 dogs, what does that do to the dopamine and the serotonin in my brain and the connections in my brain and my longevity? Maybe it's just as the same as going out for pizza with your friends. So all the more power to it. I'm saying yes to meetings, not only with people, but also to dogs. Okay, so um, sleep. Okay, so we've gone through the creativity. We're going to do poems. We're going to do Friday Frime Day. We're going to do some sort of creativity every week and connection. We're going to do these saying yes to meetings. Some of those things I think can have a dual purpose, right? The run club, walking club, some kind of exercise club, some kind of diet club. I know that some of these vegan grocery stores that we have in various cities, they also have clubs. Okay, so there's places that you can meet people that have the same goals as you. Now, granted, I get on some of these vegan um, social media accounts, and then they say, you're not vegan if it's not because of the animals or something like that. Who are you to say what vegan is? But and so there is sometimes some in some circles, and this could be in the gym too, these circles of gyms who aren't going to accept somebody to, because you're not vegan enough for them or because you're not doing 350-pound max on the bench press and you're not all like your chest isn't out to here and that kind of thing. Like one of my friends who goes around, oh yeah, I'm big and puffy and all this. So, but you will be able to find within that. I'd say most of those people are not the exclusive vegan and the to exclude people. But there will be some people you run into, but don't get discouraged. I don't get discouraged on social media when I see somebody who tells me that I'm not vegan just because I'm not 100% vegan. I'm doing it for my health and I love chicken wings. Okay? So once a week, once a month, I might have some chicken wings. I love certain food. And so once a month I might cheat. And that's not going to affect me if as long as I can maintain 90%. That's my goal, 90% into this whole food, mostly vegan, 90% vegan, um, 90% unprocessed foods, and 90% of the time I'm going to be going out and being creative, being connected. But you know what? One day a week, I might sit home and say, hey, I'm gonna just gonna sit here and watch TV for half a night, or something like that. I'm going to have one day a week. I'm not going to go for a run. I'm not going to go to the gym one day a week. Okay. So that kind of thing. If you think that the being um, ultra vegan has to be what you need to have in all of your friends in order for you to call them a vegan, then so be it. That's not true life. Okay, so the next part is sleep, and this is obviously the next part. And sleep and stress is very important. Okay, so sleep and stress, relaxation at night. Okay, so we're going to talk, and I'm actually going to do a Sunday science about this, the use of brain entrainment. Okay, so I was a little bit new to this too, and I had heard about entrainment, and I've heard about, obviously, I know about what brain waves are associated with what activities, alpha with awakeness, and you've got gamma with focus and concentration. You've got delta waves with deep sleep and with relaxation, theta waves with relaxation also. Okay, so that relaxation at night and the use of meditation and decreasing stress, not bringing work to bed, and maybe even some massage and or some other relaxing things at night before bed. We're going to continue to use the previous facets of the nighttime and daytime circadian rhythm entrainment. So that circadian rhythm entrainment, this is a different kind of entrainment of light wake, light and dark wake and sleep cycle, to where you get bright light in the morning and your light should be low and or maybe less blues and greens to red light at night, and decreasing those. You shouldn't have bright lights after about 7, 8 o'clock at night before your bedtime. But this use of brain entrainment is very interesting. There's different types of brain entrainments you can use. And so the gamma entrainment actually helps with focus and helps with, actually has been shown to help with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So we're going to get into that in that Sunday science we talk about. But the other parts of this is the use of delta and theta entrainment for relaxation at night before sleep and or during meditation and or this whole time frame of when you're trying to decrease stress, decrease the amount of cortisol, decrease your body temperature towards the nighttime body temperature. And the nighttime body temperature, if you've ever done any kind of tracking of sleep, tracking with any kind of device, you know that what you want is a lower temperature at night when you're going to sleep. And then it comes up in the morning with the stimulation of cortisol in the morning when you are waking up. Okay. So you want that lower um, that lower temperature at night, and some of that is set by your brain. Okay, so part of your brain that sets your temperature deals with stress. So that decreasing the stress and using meditation and relaxation at night. But not only that, but there's something called delta and theta entrainment. Okay, so delta waves in your brain are 4 hertz, approximately 4 hertz uh, waves of 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 electrical activity. Okay, so and these delta waves are associated with sleep. So when you are in deep sleep, you have more delta waves. Okay, so but what they found is that if you entrain the brain by subjecting it to either a binaural or isochronic 4 hertz stimulation. So 4 hertz is basically 4 per second. So in other words, you're having 4 cycles of something per second. And it can be either light or sound. Probably could be other things too, but light and sound is what's been studied. Binaural is basically means you need headphones and you need the sound in your headphones um, to work. Okay, so if you find that you found a binaural delta entrainment and you put it on your phone, which is a monaural basically system, it's only one sound, one speaker. That's not going to work because that binaural sound is using the left and the right to create that 4 hertz. Okay, so the binaural system is going to get a um, a um, uh, the waves between the two ears, creating that 4 hertz. Okay, so but there are out there these isochronic these are basically can be of anything. Okay, so it can be from your phone. So if you are using in your phone a mono source, or even in your car per se, I would probably still use isochronic. That's just basically a mono system of 4 hertz of a beat that's going to be in your brain, because it's all going to come from the same place. Okay, so um, and that 4 hertz can train your brain into the delta and relax your brain, and it can help with relaxation, can help with sleep. Okay, so the next part is theta entrainment, which is 4 to 8 hertz. Probably, let's say it's in the middle of 6 hertz. That same around that same frequency is going to get you theta entrainment. So it is going to give you relaxation at that. So again, binaural or isochronic, you can get your theta entrainment. Okay, so Sunday Science, we're going to talk about that probably on this next Sunday Science episode, to show the different data for gamma, delta, theta, and even alpha entrainment for that matter, for the focus and that kind of thing. And so, and activity. Okay, so we're using meditation, we're decreasing our stress. And obviously, don't bring your work to bed. Okay. So, and don't bring your phone to bed. This is something we've already talked about. Okay. So, all right. So, that fifth pillar of plastics, we've, I've had now already gotten rid of a lot of different things in my kitchen and also in my clothing wardrobe. This is not necessarily a cotton wardrobe I'm wearing right now, but certainly getting rid of some of these plastics in your wardrobe might not be a bad idea as well. But now, so this week I am starting to use a KitchenAid steel mixer. I already have a food processor that's made out of only stainless steel and glass. But there's certain KitchenAid steel mixers that can be used to try to decrease the amount of plastics in my life. So started to use those. Okay, so again, the review of this. Okay, so here's where we're at. We're in week 5. I've already made some amazing changes in my life. Had some hiccups again, like I said, December holidays. You know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. Um, is that a limiting belief? But it is an excuse, right? So, but at the same time, here's where we're at. We're in the midst of our change and really getting somewhere now. And our goal here, our vision, is the blue zones. Our vision is the studies of Mediterranean diet that have shown decreased dementia compared to the normal American diet. The standard American diet, SAD, is just what it is, sad. Sad American diet. And granted, I've grown up with that. We've all grown up with that, right? And we've grown up thinking that that's what we need to eat, right? That's what our grandparents fed our parents and then fed us. Okay. So, and the interesting thing about that review of what limits us is that it's our history, it's our childhood. Okay, so that Mediterranean diet, unless you're Mediterranean, unless your parents were Italian and only cooked you whole foods, which is great. Maybe they're Greek or something, fed you that Mediterranean diet full of antioxidants. All the more power because you and hopefully your system hasn't changed to more of the American diet, because if you did grow up with that, all the better to institute even more of it in my life. So that the studies of the Mediterranean diet are more better than any other study, and certainly there's studies of keto diet great for losing weight, etc. But there are some problems with the keto diet. I am here to tell you that it is not all good to eat high fat, high protein, and low sugar. Certainly the sugar should be low, but if you can do a Mediterranean diet and keep that sugar low, all the better. Okay, so and then the movement we're doing for our strength, because really when you come to your marginal decade. And let's say that marginal decade starts at 70 and you're going to die at 80. That when you're 70 and you can't do anything because of the poor life choices you've had since you were 50 and before that, at age 70, what's going to potentially take you is number one is going to be cancer, right? Number two is going to be diabetes and kidney disease and high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. And a lot of what ends up killing people is falls. Okay, so this is one of the reasons probably why that strength and movement improves the longevity and health span is probably just that. If you can avoid falling when you're 71 and breaking your hip, and studies have shown that if you break your hip, your 5 year survival is, low, like 50%, 70%. There's a high mortality with that. Okay. So once you break your hip, that means number one, you're already weak to begin with. Number two, there's already potentially some limitations. Could have been an accident. Obviously, we have to ask people every time, why did you fall? Was it an arrhythmia that caused you to be dizzy that fell? Or was it because of decreased oral intake that made you dizzy or something? But could it have been weakness? Could it have been the fact that they haven't been exercising because of their cardiovascular disease? All of those things piling up leads one to say not only that, but then the weakness and or the mortality and the inflammation from having a fracture that leads to problems in the future, not just from what caused the fall, but the fall actually causing the mortality in the long run. That is why we are doing this. Okay. That's why I'm trying to talk my mom into getting into the gym, getting into, and she already does water aerobics, which, they have those little weights and that there's something there. Okay. But it's not just that, because it's the SVO2, it's some of the other things that's going to help her to live. And I'm selfish. I want her to live to be 100 like her mother did. Okay. So I want her to live, her mother lived to be 102, right? So I want her to live, she probably will live that long. And what I want her to live that long is not in a wheelchair and not in a nursing facility or that kind of thing. Okay, so that kind of thing, it can be a selfish thing for you if you want. And my selfish thing is the longer I have a good health span, the more money I can make over the long run. I can retire later. I can wait until I get Social Security till I'm 72 or whatever. I haven't even looked into that. I hope I don't have to look into that anytime soon to see when I should get Social Security. But the longer you can wait, the more money you get in Social Security, right? I do know that part. And so it can be selfish if you want, because if you want to make money longer, you're going to have more money to live with and you're going to have more money to give to your grandchildren, et cetera, when you die. Okay. So that kind of thing. We've already talked about, I had brought these to start to eat a little bit of this, but these are my favorite berries, raspberries. Um, Strawberries are really good. Just going to give myself a little sugar here. Okay. But that sugar comes with some antioxidants. So what have we done? Our review. To get to the blue zone, to get to our own personal blue zone. My own personal blue zone is going to be me going to Chile when I'm 100 years old, not 56. I'm going to go to Chile when I'm 100 years old, and I'm going to hike up to the hot springs when I'm 100 years old. I'm going to visit Concha y Toro winery when I'm 100 years old and have a glass of wine with the El Diablo in the wine cellar. I'm going to do that when I'm 100 years old. Okay, so that's my blue zone, my own personal blue zone. Right here, see, that's why I'm wearing blue. That's why I always wear blue. That's why my eyes are blue, because I'm my own personal blue zone. Okay, so amazing what I'm doing already, but what I can do even better. Okay, so I'm getting there. I'm now 47 weeks away from being there, and I am healthier because of it, and I will be healthier because of it. But let me tell you, we've already done this over the the previous 4 weeks. Now we're in the fifth week. I've started a little bit going toward intermittent fasting, creating a nutrient scarcity because people live longer and healthier if they're not eating all of these nutrients. And if you have the whole foods and increasing fiber, you get food for your microbiome signaling to your brain, and you get better hormone balance. And that increased fiber, we talked about psyllium, we talked about oats, talked about using organic oats partially because some of these organic grain or non-organic grains can have pesticides on them. And so there is, if you have um, um, this diet that I've chosen. Basically, I haven't eaten at a fast food restaurant at all over the past maybe 6 months already. But I've instituted that as almost week one, just because that is a a non-starter for health, right? Is basically no fast food. You have to have no fast food, and we're going to eat a little processed food. We're going to try to eat all organic. Doesn't have to be all organic, but as long as it's whole food right now. But at some point, be nice to have all organic. Okay, so um, we're getting foods that have antioxidants in them. The Mediterranean diet, basically the MIND diet. That's the Mediterranean diet that is associated with decreased dementia. It involves getting berries, greens, olives, different substances that have those antioxidants and have low sugar and low saturated fat, but yet they may have some sugar in them, but they're the only sugar you should eat, or I should eat, is ones that have a reason for getting that sugar to you. And that's the antioxidants. Okay. So that's berries. So if something is not purple, if it's not red, if it's not green, then it may not have some of those antioxidants you need. So you might think about looking at that and the color of the food because the color is the key. Okay. So I'm eating no dairy, very little dairy. No red meat, almost no red meat. Probably once in the past 6 months have I even had a hamburger. Sunday meal preps I'm using. Low sugar, almost keto, but only sugar in the form of berries, dates, honeys, anything with an antioxidant in it. I've gone to detox Mondays. I'm using berries. Again, no sodas. Basically, probably once in the past 6 months also have I had a soda. Dairy and red meat free. I'm using poultry and seafood. There's a reason for seafood because it does have some antioxidants in it and omega-3 oils. Daily greens, berries, nuts and beans, increasing that. Water and psyllium fiber, a lot of water because that water substitute helps. Okay, so um, and that time restricted feeding, 12 to 16 hours. I've done that once per week. Going to try to get that to that basically every day in the future. The supplements we're using, calcium and vitamin D, omega-3, plus vitamin B12. And now then some fermented foods, some yogurts we started this week. Uh, and so then the exercise, we're increasing our strength, we're increasing our cardiovascular fitness, and we're going to institute some trackers for this, Strava, etc., whatever you want to do, but also maybe a watch or a ring, whatever you might find that suits your budget because some of these things can be expensive, right? So, resistance training, we're trying to avoid injury, not to the maxes, but to the 12 to 14 rep failure. So, not to two, not to five, not to six or eight. We're talking 12 to 14. These are light weights, okay? So, um, movement, 3 times per week we've done. 3 times per week cardiovascular training. So now we're up to 6 days a week doing some of these things and try different forms. Okay. So everybody's got their different form, their favorite activity. And if you mix it up, that might make things less boring, less routine. Bicycling, running, walking, lifting weights, dumbbells, stretching is important. Okay. So then our connection we have. getting increasing connection, family and friends that we've had through the holidays. We need to continue that. Okay, so these family members that I've found here, reconnected with, I'm going to try to continue that connection with them. Creating a social enablement for your new lifestyle. So those kind of things, those people that you are connecting with online, and when you start to get out and get on your connections, if you're going to use social media, make it a positive thing, okay? So I've tried to make it a positive thing, try to get out there and comment positive things on people's social media. There's too much negativity out there on social media, and the more positive we can get out there, the better. And that positive comments that I reach out to other people actually is affecting me in a good way. Okay, so um, texting can be important, but again, get to the phone calls, okay? Get to the actual in-person meeting. And I'm doing that more and more, okay? So I'm getting a connection. I'm getting the different apps that I can use potentially for yoga, for meditation, creativity. I'm doing a weekly journal we started doing, connections that we're going to use, and then also the creativity we talked about. All right, with sleep, we're getting that 6 to 8 hours of sleep, bright light in the morning, low red light at night. Alcohol limiting, alcohol, when you drink alcohol within it, even 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, it absolutely ruins your sleep. Okay, so my sleep, I can tell when I have drank even one drink because I sleep less well, and the tracking shows that. Okay, so we're getting less stress, meditation, mindset, the lights down, red light, and then we just talked about entrainment. Exercise in the morning, stretching in the morning to increase that cortisol in the morning that you need. We actually need some cortisol. People are anti-cortisol now, right? But we need some cortisol. We need some stress. We need to get some uncomfortable activity, and that's sometimes a good thing as long as it's just temporary. So temporary stress is actually a good thing, okay? So, but we need that time. We need that time for our brain. There have been a lot of studies, and I was just looking at a study showing that basically you need to have certain clearance of toxins out of your brain by your body, and it uses norepinephrine, which is your kind of your stress hormone, but your body does secrete that norepinephrine in your brain, within your brain, periodically to every about 50 seconds or so to clear the toxins out of your brain. And it only does that if you get good sleep. It does that more, obviously, when you get good sleep. But one sleeping pill decrease that norepinephrine secretion and decrease the clearance of those toxins out of the brain. So, that stress that you have needs to be gone by the time you start to try to fall asleep. If you have any kind of stress at night, any kind of ruminants of things, and I've had some of these sleepless nights, stress, obviously being a doctor can be stressful, right? So you have to be on call. You have to be awake in the middle of the night sometimes, right? So those stressful things need to be minimized. Okay. So at night, you can have plenty of stress during the day and all that kind of thing, but at night, that stress needs to be minimized. And we're working on that by decreasing alcohol, decreasing our stress, doing meditation, doing some entrainment. Okay, so again, some things we're doing for plastics. We've already gotten rid of containers that we've used, the plastic containers, going to glass containers that you use to store food, to store any food that you're going to use. Bottles, going to glass and stainless steel containers that you drink out of. Okay, so cookware, again, stainless steel. Um, any utensils need to be wooden and steel now. Trying to get rid of a lot of the things that our body comes in contact with. And here I'm, obviously our food, even the fresh food, comes in plastic, right? So, boom, right there. Obviously, I can't get rid of all plastic, but you can potentially, as soon as you get those raspberries from the grocery store, These are nice organic raspberries from Sprouts. If you can put those in a glass container as soon as you get them, might be all the better because if a if a fruit is nice and dry and it hasn't started to ferment or break down at all, it's not coming into plastic that much. And it's already probably come into contact with other plastics on the way when they're packaging it, et cetera. But if you can put those into as they start to kind of break down a little bit and liquefy a little bit and go get a little older, the more you can put that in contact with glass, the better. Um, my prepping, okay, so food processors and the KitchenAid I just talked about using a mixer that has only steel. And certainly the old time mixers that we had, that the plastic and the two little whippers and that kind of thing that you use, your mom used, I use, those are for the most part all stainless steel on the end. Um, and so even if you have to use something old like that, you don't have to buy a $500, $800 KitchenAid to get to stainless steel for your food processing. Um, Getting rid of, I think probably the biggest thing is spatulas. Okay, wooden spatula for me is far better for me because I can see. Have you ever looked at that spatula and looked at the flat edges that got melted at the tip, and then you have to kind of scrape the top, scrape the surface of it, the very end of it, and you peel off a piece of plastic off of there and you throw that away and oh, I'm going to use that again. No, I'm not using that again. I'm not using a plastic spatula ever. Okay, so um, decreasing the water bottles. Obviously, sometimes at work it might be a difficulty, but all right. So reiterating my goal here again, whole foods, mostly vegan, low carb, not no carb, not keto, calorie restricted, with daily cardiovascular resistance training, daily mindfulness connection to self and others, better sleep. Okay, so that creativity for to self and others, to connection to self is that creativity, journaling, self-awareness, meditation, and then to others is, you need some social connection, better sleep. And so, and then less plastic. So those five pillars. Okay, so they're the four pillars we usually talk about: diet, exercise, sleep, and connection. Adding that fifth pillar of decreasing plastic, which is something is part of my goal. None of this happens overnight. If I had poor eating habits, any overweight that I used to have, lack of movement, poor sleep, poor connection, these are all interrelated, and changing all of them is a full-time occupation. So once is a start, twice is a trend, three times is a habit, and four times is a life change. And again, we're on our fifth week, so we're already to the four times. So we're on to five. I don't know what five times is. Five times is amazing. So, all right. So the last thing I told you, we're going to do a poem here. And this poem is called Legacy of Lyle. Okay. So I wrote this again. I told you I wrote this for my father when he died a couple of months ago. So um, here is the legacy of Lyle. The man stands atop it all, life built on steady toil. Farm and country roots call, small town and precious soil. Surveyor, engineer of North Iowa property lines, angles geometry in his brain, drafting, hammering, plot numbers and signs. Thousands of rebar and hallowed ground remain. Yet physical boundaries did not know. In endless work, six blue eyes took heed, legacy built in pin oak to grow. Carry the torch to mountains and sea, three Laartzes following in step. In his image, steadfastly made their mark. Six young adults setting off on life's doorstep. Four more tiny ones to walk, learn, embark. Many new routes move to faraway lands, yet on them Lyle's salient Iowa earth clings, evermore nurturing each life's grand plan. The joy of living is that lessons brings. Decades on, stories told, only then through history, repeat the deeds of this man of old. His mark will be no mystery. To those who love him evermore, time will not ever erase our memories of inner child adore, indelible forever on our face. We really are just a living legacy. All right, that's a poem. And again, we're going to do Friday, Frime Day, every Friday. So that's our first episode of Friday, Frime Day. So that's our rhyme for the day. Feel free to share your poetry that you come up with for your creativity and your connection to yourself and others. Again, follow us anywhere you get your social media, your podcasts. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads, we are on Facebook, and we are in Substack. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. We're on Spotify. We're on anywhere you can get podcasts, basically, Apple Podcasts, etc. Everywhere you get your podcasts. Again, amazing. Thank you for joining us for week 5. We look forward to, again, look for us with Sunday Sciences. We're doing Friday Frime Days now. We're going to do Thursdays, where we do Throwback Thursdays. That's going to be part of History of Medicine and history of different episodes of health that we want to bring up. And we're going to do our podcast. We're going to do some Monday meditations. And thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
This site and any information communicated within it are not intended as medical advice. The information herein is not intended as medical care, diagnosis, or treatment of any medical condition. No component of this content, including discussion or comments, shall be construed or implied as establishing a doctor-patient relationship. Before you translate or copy any of the information, diet, exercise, or products utilized herein or on any social media post to your own practice, consult your own research, physician, therapist, or nutritionist for your own health. No warranties or claims are made as to the benefits or risks of any treatments, diet, exercise, or products herein. Research any treatments, diet, exercise, or products thoroughly before trying for yourself. Referral, affiliate, or advertising fees may be garnered by this site.